And there we go. Over to you.
Hi all, thank you for being interested in green management training. This is part of the Learning Week for ACF team. I will start by introducing myself. I'm Homaidan from Jordan Mission. I'm working as Food Security and Livelihood Program Manager in Madaba. I joined Action Against Hunger team since early February 2019, which means like I'm pretty new. So it will be great being part of the team. So let's start. At the beginning, let's have a look at the agenda. This presentation includes the objectives of this training and the introduction about the green management. Then we will talk about green management at office, and then green management, adaptation, and food security and livelihood projects. We will have an exercise called storytelling. The storytelling is providing or talking about some experiment, a real experiment in green management. That will be as sharing experiences and lessons learned. So the first story will be on green micro businesses. The second one will be in an access integration of resources of water, energy, and food. And then you will have the opportunity to tell your story if you have one on green management. So welcome aboard. If we are talking about management, just make sure that we are following each term in the definition of management. So we have the process of decision making, this is first, planning, scheduling and directing resources, leading, controlling, and finally, evaluating activities implementation. So we will go one by one from these terms included in the definition of management, and will be integrated to define the green management later on. We have also managing people, which is prepare people to act together for common goals. So management includes activities and includes people as well. So going back to the definition, integrating these definitions in the green management. So when we are talking about decision making, what to select? So if we are talking about what to select, we are talking about anything we are going to purchase. Items, food, materials, equipment, whatever. And we will go one by one for these definitions in our storytelling as well, and in green management inside office as well. And second, when we are talking about planning, so we are talking about resources management, which refers to the first point after decision making on what to select, then how to manage these resources. And after using these resources, we can think about waste management as well. Third, scheduling and directing resources, which means we need to think how to efficiently use what we already purchased in our decision making. The fourth thing is leading to be a good example, which means like managing people. When you manage people, you don't just give orders or tasks. You should be the model, just to show them the good habits that they should follow. The fifth is controlling, which means reduce, reuse, and recycle. And this is pretty related to the third and second points, which are planning and scheduling and directed resources. And we are talking about the sixth one, which is evaluating activities implementation. So why we should evaluate our activities? Because we need to measure or estimate the impact just to make sure that we are justifying our practices, our management, and our efficient use, because every task matters. Everyone is responsible, has the responsibility to take care of this planet, and each habit matters a lot in saving our environment. So the first thing to integrate green management in a humanitarian context is green management at office. I will present some tips. Like, it's not all tips that can be adapted inside office, because we can find many tips, but these are some examples on how to support turning our office into green office. And also we have another term which called green employee, which means that the habits or behaviors of this employee in saving the environment can be classified as green employee. So the first term in defining the green management or management is decision making, as we remember what to select. So if we are talking about decision making before purchasing any item or equipment, we can think about many options. Some of them is using glass cups and plates that can be reused and environmentally friendly, which means that when we dispose after maybe broken, it cannot harm the environment. This is first, like a definition of environmental friendly, and can be used several times, and this is also efficient use of resources, including saving some money instead of purchasing daily or weekly plastic or paper cups. Second tip to consider is to use cloth towels or hand dryers instead of paper towels, because we know, like all of us knows, that all papers and paper towels comes from trees, and trees are the lung of our earth. But like using more paper and paper cups and towels means they will cut more trees to produce these cups and towels, and that's not good for our earth's health. Third tip to think about is installing carbon fluoride low and lead bulbs, which means that these bulbs can reduce energy consumption inside the office. It's resources efficient use plus saving money again. So being eco-friendly or environmental friendly or behaving in adapting green management principles is not only resources efficient, but it's also can save you some money. Buy and use recycled paper. It's the same justification for the glass cups. Get a coffee maker that doesn't require paper filters, and we can find many varieties in the market. So these are some tips for decision making to be green officer or a green employee inside the office. The second definition is planning. So we are talking here about resources management and waste management. So how we can plan this? First, we can prepare a recycle center, and we need to have a segregated bins for each solid waste type, which means that we need to have one bin for papers, one bin for metals, and one bin for plastic. The fourth one is for glass. We can coordinate with any recycle center. They can just pick the bins once it's full, and they will make sure that it will be recycled again. The second tip is make sure to maintain the water system regular. This is to not only to save the water resources and efficient use of water resources, but also to decrease the wasted water. Because in humanitarian context, we teach people how to efficient use their water resources, because most of the countries are scarce in water resources. Especially here in Jordan, we are the second poorest country in water resources, and this is really important thing to maintain. The third one is to minimize your use of products that there are no green alternatives, such as the rubber pants. So anything you can just get rid of, or not, like have the decision not to use or not to purchase, just go ahead. The third one is scheduling and directing resources, which means, again, efficient use. So how we can have some tips in our office under the concept of a green management. First, check computer settings for standby mode. This will save the energy which comes from electricity power, which comes from the biogas, and this is a natural resource that cannot be renewed. Second one, print on both pages. Try to go paperless by only printing documents if necessary. Like whenever you have to print some document, just make sure your printer setting is on printing on both pages. Third tip is, if you have access to your office thermostat, heat your office at maximum of 70 Fahrenheit or 21st Celsius when occupied, and just turn it off when you leave your office. And you can, or maybe you can, like when unoccupied, you can just decrease the temperature down to 61 Fahrenheit or 16 Celsius. The fourth is leading. Be a good example. How can I be a good example? I need to enhance my knowledge first to find more tips, because this presentation is not presenting everything or every item in the world. So I need to search first and learn more tips and adapt at office as well. Second tip, I can present what I learned to my colleagues. Maybe during the monthly meetings, maybe during behaving in front of them as well. Or maybe circulating some emails, putting some posters. Put a big plant at your office to recycle air. So this big plant will attract your colleague, and they will come and ask like, hi, you get a big plant in your office. And then you have the chance to explain the importance of having a plant in your office and the importance of plants for our earth. The fourth tip is, you can remind your colleagues, your friends and family members with these tips in different occasions. Fifth, controlling, reduce, reuse, and recycle. So same tips mentioned previously are part of reducing the resources consumption, reusing some resources that can be reusable, and recycle if possible. One tip can be provided here is recycle used office suppliers whenever possible. Like for example, if you have a new colleague joining the staff, you can just deliver to him some used laptop or used smartphone, for example. When you are renting equipment or vehicles, you can rent a used car. So this is an environmental friendly behavior. Last one is evaluating activities implementation, just to justify our acts, our behaviors, and our habits. Because if someone will ask, like, you are doing this for being an environmental friendly, but can you give us a reason? Just be well prepared. So an example, using glass cups and plates instead of paper cups, and using soft copies, paperless agenda. If you are in a meeting, just circulate the agenda as a soft copy and try not to print it. And printing in two sides as well. We reduce using paper, which comes from plants, in brackets, wood. And as I mentioned earlier, plants are the lung of the earth and can reduce the effect of a global warming as well.
Any kind of plants?
Any kind of plants. Any kind of plants, anything green, because it has some chlorophyll and some leaf litter index, so many specifications, and it acts as a conditioner for the air as well. And plants can absorb CO2 from the air and release O2. CO2, the carbon, is the main greenhouse gas that is contributing to the global warming. So now we will go to integrating the green management principle and food security and livelihood projects. An example, how to adapt. So we have many components under food security and livelihood projects. I will give some examples. The first example is micro, small, medium enterprises. We can add resources management, as mentioned above, as well as waste management to the training plan. also to the monitoring plan. The first telling story example will talk in details about these resources. Second, we have farming or agriculture. For agriculture projects, we can consider promoting farm waste management through producing organic fertilizers, in addition to using organic pesticides and fertilizers, or maybe biological. The third example is about food security. So we can promote, for example, consuming dried food instead of canned. Why dried food instead of canned? Because it's healthy. This is first. And the second, it was dried using solar energy, which means natural resources. And it will not use electricity, for example, which comes from unrenewable resources. So, our first story, put into practice. So, the concept of storytelling is shared experiences to enhance our project planning, to enhance our daily practices, and to be introduced to common challenges and proper mitigations. The first story, green micro-businesses. It has many activities. This was a project I was engaged in 2016, and it was implemented here in Jordan. It targeted 200 beneficiaries in Mafraq, one of the governorates in Jordan. The first activity we implemented is to we went step by step in introducing green micro businesses to the beneficiaries. The first step was to raise their environmental awarenesses among the local people through informative sessions about presenting the objectives of our project and the activities as well. The first step was to include raise this environmental awareness in trainings for these 200 beneficiaries as part of the local people or the local community. The environmental awareness included the resources management, waste management, like all steps we mentioned for green management, the 6 steps. And then we supported them to design 8 environmental community initiatives considering these steps for green management. Then we supported them to establish green parks. Green public parks will be visited by all categories of local people. Young people, children, elderly, and when they visit the public park that is really green, planted with many trees and shrubs, using solar clean energy, and having some green kids playing area, with some posters justifying that this is a green public park and why it's really green, why it's really important to our planet health. So this is a kind of public awareness about the environmental issues, or using resources management as part of a green management. The second activity of the project was to promote the term and concept of a green businesses. We conducted 9 days training on green businesses for the 200 beneficiaries, including Canvas, and including even starting off planning the resources. Like, for example, if we found someone who is going to open a tailor shop, we train them to try to think about the resources. Purchase locally. When you purchase locally, for example, you minimize transportation needed, which means that for businesses, it will decrease your cost. So this is first in business language. But in green management, we are talking about decreasing the consumption of a fuel which releases a lot of CO2 and which is definitely contributing to the global warming. Then we provided funds to establish 100 micro businesses for these beneficiaries through selecting and mentoring the plans provided by the beneficiaries. And we gave 50% of the mark for those considering environment in most of the steps of planning for their businesses, starting by resources selecting and ending by a plan for recycling the waste, and also for the promotion material they are using. Then we provided coaching and follow-up, and we announced some success stories to be a model and to be followed by other beneficiaries. The second story is maximizing the benefits of integrating the resources, the natural resources. In this project, we integrated water, energy, and food through creating a nexus. The concept was to plan the integrated resources project, reusing water for irrigation. So we have the land very close to the wastewater treatment plant. And the reclaimed water was tested for its quality, plus the monitoring the quantity of the water. Then we planned for a cropping pattern for this land, because we have a livestock project close to this treatment plant. We developed a feed plan for these livestock, and we estimated how many forage they need on monthly basis. Then we have our cropping pattern and our estimation of the production, which lead us to define the cropping pattern, means the type of crops to be planted per area. Having this plan, we were able to design our irrigation system to fit in. For this irrigation system, we used pumps, and for the pumps, we estimated the energy required for through estimating the irrigation requirement through all over the year. And then we decided to design the solar energy system that can operate efficiently our irrigation network. And we considered for sure the quality and the quantity of the reclaimed water produced. So the objective was to, first of all, being an example, a model to promote resources management. The resources management included feed plan, water use, solar system, available area, and local manufactured irrigation network. The third objective was to enhance soil productivity and fertility, and that was conducted using organic fertilizers. We planted a herb, a type of forage called Sudani grass, and when it reached 40 centimeters, we just plowed the plant on the soil and just left it on the soil for a couple of weeks. And that was a type of organic fertilizer to enhance the soil productivity, the soil physical and chemical properties. Our fourth objective was to decrease groundwater wells pollution, because we have reclaimed water and we need to reuse it. So having our soil enhanced in physical and chemical properties, and through monitoring the quality of this reclaimed water regularly, we planted this farm or this land with forage, which is use this water for to cover irrigation requirements, which means that this reclaimed water most likely will not reach the groundwater table. The last objective was to enhance livelihood of the local people, because we are providing some cheap resources, not expensive resources to them for their livelihood enhancement. Because feed items are really costly in Jordan, and this reclaimed water is really cheaper than the tap water that have been used for irrigation for several years. So this was our stories. And now we can open the window for your stories, if you have. Questions?
No. Thank you.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you so much. That was really interesting.
Yeah, thank you for being interested, Alice.
Yeah, no problem. I'll save the recording on the Knowledge Hub and I'll send you the link.
Yeah, that would be great.
Perfect. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice. Bye-bye.
Bye.